I'd like to ask you now.
Right.
What does World Economic Forum do?
What's up, upgraders? What do Kim Jong-un, Masayoshi Son, the gambling billionaire CEO of SoftBank Japan, who turned a tiny $20 million investment in an unknown Chinese startup called Alibaba into $75 billion, and today's guests all have in common? That's right, they've got all the money and we've got just kidding, I think. But real talk, they're all tied to North Korean roots. I hope I'm gonna get out of this episode alive. Wait, hold up. Let me clarify. When I said North Korean roots, I was joking. I'm talking about the Zainichi Koreans. After World War II, Korea split into North and South Korea, and thousands of Koreans became stateless in Japan. So they had no nationality, just left to their individual hustles. They became known as Zainichi Koreans. History's messy, but their success, somehow, crystal clear. Welcome to Upgrade Me. I'm your host, Dana Leong. In this episode, we're sitting down with Taejun Shin. When I first connected with this guy, I had no clue about his cultural origin story or if he'd even spill it to me. What I did know, he's a freaking modern day polymorph, a business savant running Gojo Company, providing microfinance to millions. He's a multidisciplinary athletic powerhouse, running 1,648 kilometer ultra marathons. He's a karate black belt, a 6th dan in Gojo, which is basically a Japanese chess master. He shoots portrait photography like a pro, and bangs out on the drum set just for fun. Talk about overcompensation.
So smooth.
Some people hog all the talent. But here's the twist. Despite all his insane success, Taejun's actually stateless, born into a Korean family in Japan. He doesn't hold any nationality. And yet, look at how far he's come. What's your excuse? What's my excuse? From pachinko moguls to rappers like Verbal from M-Flow and the billionaire SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son, there's a whole lineage of Korean-Japanese legends out there crushing it. Let's jump in and see what makes Taejun tick.
Taejun Shin, thank you so much for being here. It's really an honor to speak with somebody as dynamic and as motivational and inspiring as yourself.
For sure.
Absolutely. So this is a super exciting episode of Upgrade Me because not only do we have you as one of the very first World Economic Forum young global leader that I'm interviewing in full length, but also this is a back-to-back, right? Because we're going to do an Upgrade Me episode, right, and afterwards we're filming something for your personal records as well.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So super exciting. Thanks for being here. When I first joined the World Economic Forum as a young global leader,
Right.
One of my advisors asked me a very simple question, which I'd like to ask you now.
Right.
What does World Economic Forum do?
Oh, that is a good question. Okay, there are many conspiracy theories going on, right?
Yeah,
On
especially during COVID.
Forum. But I think so. Before becoming the young global leader, I was a global shaper, and there was an event where these shapers had the chance to talk with Professor Schwab.
Yes.
It's more than a decade ago. I think it's in 2010, and I felt that he's genuinely willing to make the world a better place, and that's I think the ethos or motto of the forum. So committed to improving the state of the world, right?
Yes.
And how? So there's a background. So I think when Professor Schwab was very young, he was living with World War II, right?
Yes.
And it was very tough period to be, and he thought apparently that the people should be well connected and maintain at least the diplomatic ties to be able to communicate with each other, because otherwise we end up entering head-to-head war. So to avoid that, I think he started the business people's forum in Europe, and then later on everyone from around the world started to join. So the purpose is to connect people and not to take any political stance, at least the publicly, and then to improve the state of the world. That's I believe what the World Economic Forum is doing. So
That's very, very well said. I think the answer. So you had mentioned to connect people, and my answer was essentially because I'm a musician. I mean, you're a businessman and musician, but I'm purely musician and later like interested in business. My answer was they're out to have the coolest gathering in the world. Cool, kind of proverbial, right? And the moment that they don't have the most interesting, influential, cool people, then the next organization will rise and take that place, right? And we have a lot of competitors kind of coming on the scene in the last few years as well. Everybody's concerned on how can we get philosophers together with politicians and actors and musicians and kind of like really influential but interesting and meaningful people, right? People who matter to get in the room. So that Davos kind of crowd has had that kind of significance for quite a while. My next question was around exactly that. In an interview with Gojo recently, you mentioned that you felt that the forum is very fair because it's not a top-down organization. And you also mentioned that Davos had a very big impact on your life when you went to go to attend. So can you talk a little bit more about why you say this particular thing?
So when I was early 20s, I set up sort of my life plan, which is to start my own business after turning 30. And then when I turned 30, I decided that I'm going to spend 1 year to decide the subject or my startup idea. And exactly that moment, I had a chance to go to Summer Davos conference in China, in Tianjin. It was 2012, September, and I was 30 back then.
Yeah.
And I had various business ideas, but it was first time for me to attend any forum event. And I felt like it's like a private sector United Nations. And then an inspiration came to me, which was then I will create the private sector World Bank, providing financial services for everyone in the world. So in that sense, I think I was there at the very right timing because this inspiration wouldn't have come to me if I weren't there.
Right.
So
How did you originally get the invitation to go to the Summer Davos in China?
So back then I was a global shaper and
sort of like a junior version of the young global leaders, right?
Right. And I was running my nonprofit project back then. So back then I was my full-time job was an investment professional at Morgan Stanley.
That's right.
But I started my own nonprofit project to invest in microfinance institutions or to support children in the living without their biological parents and so forth. So thanks to all these activities, I was invited to be a shaper, and then somehow I got lucky to be in the event.
And the organization you were running before was the Living in Peace?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So so before we go there, I'm still interested in this idea, right? Because you had mentioned and touched upon that there are many controversies and conspiracies around reform, right?
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that you feel it's a very fair organization and that it parallels something similar to like the United Nations. So does that also mean you feel the United Nations is fair?
Two things. Unfortunately, the UN is not functioning properly, right? Whenever we see how the UN Security Council is working, unfortunately, it's not being able to function properly because of I think its decision-making structure. But at the same time, the United Nations perhaps is the only organization which can collectively support all these refugees and the people who are suffering from the war. So, for example, in South Sudan or the Myanmar, everywhere, UN-supported organizations are the ones who are really helping or saving the people there, and no other organizations are cannot do that. So, in that sense, I think it still has meaning to exist. But we are pretty sure that it should get updated.
Sure. I have no idea who's going to come along to disrupt the United Nations, but I'm sure somebody's thinking about it. Let's unpack the idea of the World Bank. I think most people know it exists, but most people don't know what it does.
All right. Okay, the World Bank Group has the many institutions that what they're mainly doing is first to raise funds from governments, to lend money to governments. That's the basic thing. And then sometimes they have like an investment arm called IFC, International Finance Corporation. Their job is to mainly invest in private companies, private sector companies. But anyway, the main counterparts of the World Bank are the governments, right?
Sure.
But in our case, what we want to do is to, the Gojo is a startup. It's a for-profit company. And then we provide microfinance services directly for the low-income households in developing countries. So, that's the difference between the World Bank and us.
Sure. Yeah. In a way, it's a kind of a way to leverage and redistribute wealth, right? From a place that has resources and has opportunity to the places that are underserved. Yeah, that's really a noble cause and something super necessary for the world. Right? What does Gojo mean?
Gojo means Confucianism 5 values. I think in Chinese it's called Wuchan.
Yes.
5 values. And so it's basically about empathy, integrity, courtesy, wisdom, and trust.
Interesting. So, with both Living in Peace and Gojo, your core business, they both deal with financial inclusivity, as well as assisting underserved communities. So, what's the difference between the two then?
Okay, so Living in Peace started as a non-profit. Also, it consists of 100% pro bono members only. So it doesn't have any full-time employees.
Okay.
So it's because, when I started Living in Peace, I was hired at Morgan Stanley, and I cannot do any full-time job outside. But at the same time, I thought that maybe, I quite often wondered about the management of non-profits, which is if you donate to any non-profit, right or wrong, certain amount of the money would be spent as a personal cost for the staff members, right? That's important. But I thought maybe, if we run the organization with 100% volunteers, then any money funded can be directly used for the right causes. So, and then I thought maybe it might be quite interesting. And then back then, when we started in 2007, at least in Japan, the people's mindset was that if you're hired by an organization, you cannot find any job outside of your company, right? So back then, this kind of lifestyle was quite new, and we wanted to propose that. Nowadays, I think it's quite common. Many business people in Japan, they can find any outside jobs as on a pro bono basis. Or part-time basis these days. That's a major change that we had in the last decade. But anyway, so that's what Living in Peace is doing as a non-profit. And there are some projects that the only non-profits can do. Like, for example, in Japan, we are supporting children in foster homes, etc. And these things cannot be steered down by for-profit. But Gojo Company is a for-profit organization, and we make profit. And in the future, we would like to be listed in the stock market, and we are funded by not only by individuals but also by venture capitals and private equity. So and then our customers also. Typical, our customers are not the lowest income households in developing countries, because for these people, sometimes you have to have some non-profit interventions first.
Okay.
And then once these people started to develop their own lives economically, then they can, the use our services, like they're borrowing money to, develop the business further. So that's what they can do. But again, so there is the fault lines between what for-profit can do and what non-profit can do.
I see. If there's a fault line, is there an earthquake?
Oh, I think sometimes in the I think it's management theory discussion. Sometimes people use the word fault line.
Oh, okay.
To separate two things. There is no earthquake.
Okay, gotcha. But if that's good that there's no earthquakes and turmoil between the two organizations. But do you use similar kind of metrics to gauge the success?
Yes, I think at the end of the day, what we care about is the well-being of our customers as well as the people who work for the organizations. So in that sense, yes, the way we measure success or our happiness as the people working for the cause is the same.
Yeah. So those of you watching, we're here in Tokyo today with Taejun Shin, and he is really, you are really the embodiment of what a polymath is. I've met people who claim that they are a polymath, like somebody who does a lot of things and does them well. But most of those people tend to think about things or read about things, and they can talk about things. But you really are living this life where you are a modern day polymath, like somebody like Leonardo da Vinci, right, or the Renaissance.
No.
You can do so many really interesting things, and they look unrelated to the average person. But during the conversation, I think we'll unpack a lot of your interests and how you ended up, just so multidimensional, and it's super exciting. What can you share about your vision for the Japan Office of Standards for Children's Services?
Oh yeah, that's the recent project that I started with my fellow workers. In the UK, for example, there's an organization called Ofsted, and their job is to issue inspection reports on schools and local authority children's services.
How do you spell that?
Ofsted, OFSTED. So they issue these inspection reports, and for example, for schools, if you get bad scores in the inspection reports, that would be a big problem. Sometimes the principal gets fired.
Oh wow. Okay.
So in Japan, there has been almost no organization which is going to do this kind of inspection reports on public organizations. So in Japan, every year there are more than 200,000 reported abuse cases against children, and this is so 1 out of 1,000 children is subject to parental abuse. Sorry,
1%.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So quite common. I mean, you could look out in a crowd and 1 out of 100.
So actually, it's not small at all. And in Japan, there are organizations called Jido Sodanjo. I think the literary translation would be child guidance offices.
Okay.
It's a governmental organization, so it's the part of the local government's department, and their job is to save children. So sometimes they need to protect these children who are physically or mentally or sometimes sexually abused by their parents or the other people. But actually, I realized that some local governments are not doing their job properly. And that's why I came to know after talking with all these kids who are living in children's homes, because I started talking with these kids almost 2 decades ago, and then now many of them became adults now, right? And then still I hung out with some of them, and then they started talking about their past, and the most traumatic experience for them was the moment when they need to work with or they deal with these local governments people. And I realized that we didn't know anything about what they're doing. Yes, there are some experts who know the practices, but there is no universal practice among local governments. So I thought maybe we should fix this. But even if we say to the other politician friends that it should get fixed, it's not easy, because then people might ask me to what direction. Then I thought that maybe first we have to set up the standards. about how these local governments children offices should be run, right? And then based on that, we should issue inspection reports because bureaucrats or government officials, they are quite sensitive to test results,
Yes.
right?
Statistics
Test
and-
scores,
yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Because that's how they manage to get in. So our inspection reports have the scores from S to C, S, A, B, C, right? And in Japan, I think the people's typical mindset is that if you get B, that's the problem, and C, it's a disaster. You know?
Yeah.
So, and then for for 60 or so dimensions, we put the scores from S to C, and we publish it every year, and we keep increasing the number of reports. Last year it was 20 inspections, and this year it's 30, and we keep increasing the numbers such that we can cover all these local governments every 3 years. So yeah, that's what I started 3 years ago. It's been so far so good.
Fantastic. So, delving into a systematic and societal issue, but also coming up with a kind of strategic and data-driven approach to
Right.
solving and adjusting.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Looking ahead, what do you feel are some of the greatest opportunities in financial inclusion?
Okay, so financial inclusion means the access to affordable and useful financial services, and then that is not the case for many people still in developing countries, and it's just the one factor of equality of opportunity, right? And then it doesn't solve everything, but we believe that it's very important. Looking ahead, first finally, even low-income households in developing countries started to use smartphones. And thanks to that, I think many of these people will be able to use, the digital financial services, which will be quite useful for them to save money, transfer money, and so on and so forth. That's definitely a big change that we are seeing. We still haven't cracked a way to use AI or all these algorithms to improve our credit assessment, because in microfinance, usually repayment ratio is very high. It's almost always more than 99%.
Really?
Yeah. 99% of the people repay, not because of the credit algorithm, but because of the face-to-face interaction. So we meet the staff members. They meet with our customers at least every month to collect money and to do communication, and then that way people repay. If it becomes if it loses the face-to-face interface, the default ratio tends to be like 10% or even higher.
Right.
So we really have to figure out a way to overcome this. That way, I think the financial services will be much cheaper, because we need to hire these people, right? And then that will be translated to personnel costs, and that will be translated eventually to be the interest rate for our customers.
I see.
So.
Sounds a little bit scary though. Like I think if someone came to my house every time I owed a bill, I would definitely pay too.
Okay. The thing is, it's like that we have a customers meeting.
Yeah.
So every village has these small meetings, right?
Yeah.
And then we organize these meetings, and the customers come to this meeting space. Every month. So it's not like door to door we are visiting them. It's more like these village gatherings. We attend the village gatherings together to talk with our customers.
It's more participatory and voluntary and communal. Of course, it's just a joke, right? People coming to collect, because they do, right? I mean, they collect for credit cards, right? In all countries, and even property managers come and collect the rent and things like that, and it is more effective. I agree, right? To have a personal relationship and an understanding, and even just flexibility, right? Like, this time it's going to be, slightly late by this many hours, this many days is easier than just like, penalizing somebody, mechanically, for sure. So, in many interviews, Pharrell Williams, the producer, talks about how he truly believes that anything. He says anything that I can do, you can do better, right?
Mm.
And you've mentioned in many of your interviews that financial inclusion has been a big contributor to your ability to access a vibrant and successful life.
Mm.
Do you also believe that with access to financial inclusion, there could be many more people like yourself? And if you do not believe that, then what do you feel are some of the kind of differentiating factors that kind of set you apart on your journey, on your road to success?
So first, without financial inclusion, I would not have been here today even. So my family was at least not that much the wealthy family. I think I'm pretty sure that our family income was below the average of Japan back then. But first, I had a support from my relative, my aunt, that she supported my Go school. I used to practice Go, which is Asian board game.
Oh yeah.
For 9 years. Yeah, half of my friends back then became professional players. So I was in a very serious school there. So it didn't happen if my the aunt provided me some sort of funding, right? And then even higher education without scholarship programs, I would not have been able to get them. So I myself was the sort of saved by financial access. So I'm very grateful for that. And then after spending my time almost for 2 decades with kids and all these things, I realized that there are many other things that we have to work on. Financial inclusion is one of them, and the others are like education, public health, basic infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So there are many things that we have to address collectively. It's not something that one person can do. But surely, I'm now interested in financial inclusion. And then after then, if I were to be able to do one more project in my life, then that would be education.
Yeah. What about education?
Basically, elementary school education, the education for kids, not in higher education. Because now, thanks to the generative AI, I think education, the entire sector is about to transform significantly. Right? We really have to change everything. But these days, still people are thinking about how we can use AI to develop human beings which are wanted for the last which have been wanted for the last maybe 2 centuries. You know what I mean? So after the industrial revolution, we came up with some sort of the business people or the labor forces or the people who are sort of the role models in the society.
Yeah.
And this picture of the role model hasn't changed for the last two centuries or so. But now I think we have to change this how the role model looks like. And we still haven't, at least in Japan, I don't fear that people have a vision about what kind of education we should give to the kids. So many people are thinking about optimization of current educational system using AI, which is okay for the next 3 to 5 years, maybe. That's the way it is. But I think we have to think really deeply. And then that's what I started thinking. But I'm going to keep thinking about it maybe for the next 5 to 10 years.
Of course.
Before coming up with my own idea.
Does universal basic income come to your mind as something that's useful within the future?
If it is feasible, yes. However, to make it happen actually in Japan, for example, I did the calculation actually. I think we have to increase the tax by 2 to 3 times. So that's, I don't that's not something
Not
that we can expect. Some people actually look down on the governments for their inefficiency, but actually many governments are quite efficient in terms of allocating the resources to the people who are financially or the who are challenged in many ways. So
Yeah. In terms of the Japanese government, you mean?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe if we want to really the reduce inequality, the first thing that we have to do is to pay tax.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like sort of spinning back to the question again, with what Pharrell said, like if I can do it, then you can do it, and you can do it better. I think what he means is that we have all the access to all the history and all the digital records. We have YouTube. Now we have AI.
Right.
What do you think about that? Like when you think to the future about all the folks out there that are maybe in a similar situation as you as a child,
right?
Are you optimistic about that? That there can be more folks coming out of these situations that can do even greater things?
Right. Optimistic about the future. It's not just factual observation, but also my I think attitude to life in general. It's always better to be optimistic rather than pessimistic. But I'm always cautious. Realistic. Because so Yuval Noah Harari just recently published another book, right? Called Nexus, and I tend to agree with him, which is until today, culture, civilizations are made by human beings, basically.
Sure.
Now the machines started to build part of this, culture and civilization, right? And in the recently, I mean, sorry to say this in front of musicians, but I started listening to AI-generated music.
Yeah, sure.
Especially the BGM sort of, the AI-generated BGMs.
Background music.
Background music quite well made because as the drummer, when I listen to music while I'm working, whenever I come across great drumming, and I tend to listen to that music and forgetting about my work,
Oh yeah.
So it's in a sense a little bit distracting.
You carried away, of course,
right?
Of course.
The great music. If you use great music as a background music, you tend to be distracted.
Sure.
And this AI-generated background music doesn't have that kind of things, It's so natural. And
it's medium.
It's so medium.
Yeah.
And then I'm not impressed at all. But I'm in a sense impressed in that it doesn't, excites me at all. Right.
Yeah.
And then anyway, coming back to this, so it's anyway, the AI or the machine is starting to build some sort of new culture and a new narrative of the human society. Now it's music, but the novels and etc. I think same thing will happen in the near future, and then I don't know how the world will look like, and because these narratives, shared narrative, is powerful. Sometimes so powerful that due to these narratives, people tend to kill each other, right? So I don't know what kind of new narratives will be created in the human society. It will be like the birth of the new sort of religions. The recent, I think the most recent powerful religion was science, in my opinion. And because we human beings always need to believe in something to unite.
Yes.
And some people believe in science.
I don't believe in God. I believe in science.
Yeah, for example, I believe that nuclear power plants is working, but I don't know how it works.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Actually the thing is that scientific fact is one thing, but whether we believe in science or not is another.
Right.
And some people believe in science. Some people, including me, believe that science works.
Yes.
Same thing. We might, some of us will believe in AI, which is happening already. We believe in what the ChatGPT says, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then it could be sort of, it might be, the definition might be different, but it could be some sort of new religion.
I see.
And at least a new common narrative among human beings. And then I don't know how the things pan out after this. So, but I'm quite scared as well as excited.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's very daunting, especially being in the creative industries and watching how the kind of gatekeepers are at war right now,
right,
to determine who are the owners, where does the revenue go, how is it credited,
right.
Yeah, I'm curious. A couple things. I mean, you've casted a very wide net here, and I think we could talk all day about the philosophy of religion. I agree with the part of the definition when you said that, and it's something that you believe in that you don't understand. But then that goes so wide, right? It could be like any language you don't understand. Could be you understand that people are communicating, but you don't know what they're saying, so then you believe that it's working. Just lifestyle choices. There's so many things, right? Everything can come down to becoming its own religion by that sense, right? It's gonna be a very interesting ride. I think you've mentioned the convenience of digitalization of currencies, of blockchain, of the kind of evolution of cryptography and whatnot. In a way, I see that you're already looking to create equitable situations for as many people as possible. What do you think about the utilization of crypto and Web3 and blockchains and all the buzzwords in kind of digital finance in terms of your sector and your business?
As for crypto, I believe that the best usage would be at this moment money transfer, especially the remittance from one country to another.
Sure.
Because there are many migrant populations, especially among low-income households. So in Asia, for example, Nepal, Philippines, and some Central Asian countries, many of them go abroad and earn money there, and then send the money to their home country or hometown. And quite often they need to pay hefty fee. And with crypto, it's gonna be much smaller. And until very recently, the biggest challenge actually was the cryptocurrency fluctuation, which is getting smaller and becoming more manageable. So I think it's going to be a better way to send money to the people. So that's something that we are actually seeing doing some how to say pilot project or there's some research.
Sure, absolutely. The adaptation and the general market size and user base, as those continue to grow, then it becomes more accepted, it becomes more usable, utility of it. What about the decentralization aspect?
I still don't know. We talked about this religion or collective narrative, right? Money is the invention of our collective belief. So, let's say I don't have a currency, but it's just a paper, right?
Yes.
Because we believe that this can be exchanged with something. The money exists. So money exists thanks to our belief, right? Our trust.
Yes.
So trust is the essential part of making money work. And what we are trying with this Web3 or whatever is to build trust. It's a trustless network. So the
faceless trust.
And then that's, I don't know. technically speaking, yes, maybe you're right, but it again depends on whether people believe in that or not. And so when it comes to hard currency, or the how to say, the USD or JPY like currencies, we believe in the governments, right? We believe in the government's capability of making stabilized, stable financial system. So that's why these JPY USD work. If it is decentralized, I don't know whether people can believe in decentralized network. Okay, some people already believe in that.
Yeah.
I'm talking whether the majority of human beings in the society would believe in that or not. That part I don't know actually.
Yeah, it's a big question mark. It also is ties back into your belief in rights, right? Do you have the right to be private with your financial data or your financial activity?
Yeah.
And then at one point, should there be guardrails around it, right? Like, for example, how much can you exchange from, the digital world to the physical world without some, as you mentioned, the necessity of attacks?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge one that everyone's trying to figure out at the moment.
Right.
Yeah. So with every episode, we like to chime into different networks to come up with questions. And I want to read this next one because I want to make sure I get it right. So we have a mutual friend and classmate, Miss Lynn Kobayashi.
Oh, Lynn. Okay.
Yes, who is also fellow Young Global Leader, a super influential and amazing person in Japan who has worked on the cabinet with Shinzo Abe for, I think it's women's rights in the workplace and equality, and founder of a major kind of private international school institution. So Lynn chimes in and asked, Taejun, what do you identify as when people ask where you're from and why? And how has your upbringing influenced the projects you've been working on?
Oh. Did you talk with Lynn too?
I sure did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she's been my mentor.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting upbringing, actually. So my grandparents came from South Korea to Japan when Korea was part of Japan Empire. So back then, my grandparents had Japanese citizenship.
That's right.
Right. And after the end of the war, so after Japan surrendered, they gave up their sovereignty over Korea Peninsula. Right. So technically speaking, my grandparents are not the citizen of Japanese Empire anymore after the end of the war. But there was no government in Korea Peninsula back then.
Oh wow!
Right. So my grandparents became stateless, and
but at that time they were living in Japan.
In Japan,
mainland Japan,
and they actually some of my relatives went back to South Korea, but at least my grandparents decided to stay. I think they had their business here. And then they became stateless, right? And then there was no government for a while in Korea Peninsula, and then there became, the North Korea and the South Korea.
This month there was also a little moment where there was almost no government.
Oh yeah. So then the situation didn't change, and then I think in 1965 for the first time the South Korea and Japan started to have the diplomatic relationship, and then finally I think some of them started to acquire South Korean nationality. And still, there are some stateless people, including me, in Japan, who have this Korean origin, and they are called Chosen-seki.
Right.
Chosen means Korea. It's Korea Peninsula. So it means that these people are from or are the descendants of those are from the Korea Peninsula.
Okay. Like the family tree, almost like
That's right.
Koseki is also
neither South or North Korea.
Sure.
And so there are 30,000 people still existing in Japan.
Yeah.
And they are legally stateless, and including me, we don't have a passport.
Yeah.
So I have a refugee document, and with that I have traveled more than 20 countries.
Yeah.
In my life because of my work.
Yes.
And then I think definitely it gave me some impact on the way I see it. Because even today, whenever I travel abroad, quite often I'm taken to a separate room. And then I need to talk with the immigration officers or etc. to explain why I don't have a passport. And so this makes me almost forcibly to think about the people who are underprivileged. Once you become business person, young global leader, quite often the life is easy, right? And you don't
a lot of access,
right?
Yeah.
You can manage everything quite comfortably. But this is something that I always cannot be managed well.
Really?
So at least this is something that quite often low income households need to face in different settings. So because if you don't have money, especially in developing countries, you have to undergo many challenges, right?
Sure.
If you're from good family, you don't need to worry too much about your relationship with police officers, for example. But if you're in a poor village, then sometimes you might need to pay bribes to these police officers for various reasons.
Yeah.
So that kind of hurdles or challenges, the stress factors are there for low-income households. And then this is quite, to me, this being stateless is one such thing. And it's a good reminder for me.
Wow.
And I think, let's say, if I were born in Japan as a male Japanese, majority in the society, I might not have thought this much deeply about inequality and the equality of opportunities and so forth. So in that sense, I think, I'm grateful for the opportunity for me to think about all these things, and that's definitely is my backbone of the way I see things.
I see it's very deeply personal, and it's important to your mission as well. And I want to dig deeper into that.
Sure.
I had a sense about the Chosenseki existence, but actually, I think you're the first person I'm actually talking to about. It's very interesting and mysterious at the same time. As someone who is on paper stateless, I was curious, do you still feel a sense of, how would you say, like family, tribe, nationalism, like belonging to somewhere?
Yeah. So to come back to Lynn's question, what do you identify? Is actually what is my identity has been a sort of big question,
Yeah.
Because my first language is Japanese. Korean was second, but my name is Korean's name. Culturally, it's quite the fusion of Korean and Japanese culture in my home. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I sometimes wonder who am I, and then now, after turning 40, it became very simple. I'm just myself. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Taejun Shin, and that's it. But so it was a long journey, sort of.
Yeah. So when you play soccer, you may have heard this before, like if you're a kid or you're beginning in soccer and you don't know which foot to kick with, the coach or someone will go behind you and just push you.
Oh, yeah.
And whichever foot naturally goes out to save your balance,
you're
that foot for kicking. You're right-footed if you're right-footed, left-footed. So over the last few years, especially during COVID, there has been an increasing wave of nationalism where people are starting to go back to their country of origin. They're starting to kind of think about almost from a viewpoint of like home team. Let's be more American in America. Let's be more Chinese in China. Let's be, more French in France, right?
Right.
What I meant by like family and tribe and kind of that kind of identity is, you're working to help many countries around Asia at the moment.
Right.
Do you feel some sort of Not a debt, but an urge to help the countries of your geographic and kind of like cultural and ancestral background as well. Like, for example, do you have the urge to help people in Korea today? Right?
Yeah. Actually, so I think the recent discussions around this LGBTQ gave me a good perhaps insight, which is it not necessarily be a non-binary, the binary thing, the 0 or 1. It's always gradational. And I think to me, the sense of belonging is determined by how many friends or the people whom I can, relate emotionally.
Friends
exist, right?
Yeah.
So in Japan, this is a place where I was born and raised. So I have many Japanese friends,
of course,
and also I have many Korean Japanese friends, and in Korea also I have friends. So actually, it's like okay. For example, in the Olympics, if I see any Japanese teams or the Korean team, in many cases, actually, I'd be happy, if either wins.
Yeah.
And the problem is these two fight each other. Actually, sometimes I'm not decided.
Wow.
And I tend to just observe.
Yeah. I see.
And from just a pure technical perspective, okay, this was the good shooting, or this was the good offense.
Okay.
But I mean, when I was a teenager, I tend to support Korean teams more.
Yeah.
But now I have also many Japanese friends.
Yeah.
Right. So I cannot take side.
And when one of them wins, how happy are you?
One of them wins, I just celebrate the winners.
Yeah, I'm like that too. They call that a fair weather fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I am not a football fan, like American football, but I will go and watch the Super Bowl because it's exciting and there's a lot at stake and people are so excited and they get so upset and there's more action in the final. Right. So I'm a fair weather fan. I'm like, Like everybody I know in San Francisco is a huge fan of San Francisco sports because they've done so well and poured so much money and effort and talent in the last 20 years. Right. And I come like when the finals is there, I'm like, San Francisco, right? But that's what this is like a fair weather fan. When the weather is good, you're there. Like, yes. Yeah. That's awesome. Speaking of being stateless, you've mentioned there's a lot of challenges. I've just from my own natural, very curious mind, is there an advantage tax-wise? Because to be stateless in the United States, there is a tax advantage. Yeah.
Okay. I have a permanent residency here in Japan. So as a resident, I have to pay tax fully.
Right.
And I'm happy for that because I know many people who are working for the Ministry of the welfare. Yeah. And I know how my tax money is used. So
yeah, sure. Yeah. You see it in action.
I'm happy to pay my tax here.
Very good. Very good. But not in Korea. Then
No. If I move to there, then I should pay the tax there.
Yeah.
But here,
Is there, speaking of folks who have a connection, right, an ancestry in Korea, but have found multi-dimensional success in Japan, do you think there's any relationship between like folks like yourself and Masayoshi Son and his brother?
This week, SoftBank CEO Masa-san was one of 3 tech executives invited to the White House to announce the, quote, Stargate joint venture that would invest billions of dollars to boost...
Who also have similar kind of, not exact same background, but Korean ancestry, and find some resonant kind of multi-dimensional, inertia and explosive success in Japan.
I think it's understandable why he became a successful entrepreneur. In Japan, if you look at entrepreneurs, I think the proportion of Korean Japanese is much higher. Maybe 2 reasons. One, back then it was very difficult for Korean Japanese people to find a good job. So, for example, in Japan, still the biggest organizations are former conglomerates, right? The Mitsubishi, Mitsui, and so forth. Until very recently, Korean Japanese people weren't able to get into these best companies. And so naturally, they need to, find their, the jobs by themselves, and then they became entrepreneurs. And it's just a matter of, the number of trials, right? And if there are many entrepreneurs, there must be some successful ones.
Yes.
That's number one reason. And then number two, because of this, I hate the word discrimination, but the barriers, people tend to think more deeply, even when in the maybe childhood. And if you look at read the biography of Masayoshi Son, for example, looks like he was also sort of suffering from this, all these things, because looking like it looks like that he wanted to originally to be a teacher, but back then
that's right.
it's impossible. So I think he thought about it a lot, and that these things made people think deeply and became better. And they became good entrepreneurs. So Masayoshi Son actually had the same situation as mine, and then he was stateless before. And he acquired a Japanese nationality, and therefore his name is Masayoshi Son. His Korean name is Jongwi Son. So okay, we all share Chinese characters, right?
Yeah.
And there's a Japanese way of pronouncing them and the Korean way of pronouncing them.
Yeah.
So my name is Taejun Shin is a Korean way of pronouncing my Chinese character's name.
Yeah.
And if it's the pronunciated in Japanese way, my name becomes Yasutoshi Shin.
Oh wow, very different. Yeah.
Right. And I think these days this became much more flexible. But until recently, if we were to acquire Japanese nationality, we needed to change the name such that it sounds more like Japanese. So, and then that's one hurdle. Do you want? Okay, if I ask me, do I want to be Yasutoshi Shin? Maybe not.
Be married to Japan and change your last name.
Yeah. Some people don't care. That's okay. It's people's decision.
Sure.
But the Masayoshi Son's the generation. I think he acquired the Japanese nationality when he went to the US to study. Right. Because back then it was impossible for these Chosenseki people to get a US visa to study abroad. So it was like the necessary decision for him.
Right. I see. Okay. Yeah. Do you feel like you have a relationship to risk tolerance in a way that he does?
I think so. I don't know what he thinks, but so for example, when I think about my family, etc., at least I know that even if we don't have enough money, we can live happily. That's my very fundamental belief. And because when I look back my childhood, I was a very happy child. Though my family was not as rich as the other families in Japan. And then even if I today visit these the villages, etc., again I believe that money does not determine in many cases the happiness level of people. So
that's interesting.
That's a good thing. Therefore, we can take risk, because even if you lose many,
your baseline steady.
Yeah. So at least I'm pretty sure that my happiness, the line would never be invaded.
Wow, that's so important. Yeah, to be able to recognize that. I think what I've recognized in the last few years is that life is filled with what I call peaks and valleys, right? And recently, I'm super happy that post-COVID, entertainment has returned and people are, traveling and interacting and sharing amazing experiences. So it's definitely a peak.
Yeah.
But I'm watching very carefully and considering, how should I prepare for the next valley? Because life is long, and there will be many more. I hope none as deep as recent valleys, but even if there are, I hope we're prepared. And it's a beautiful way to think about it, having that kind of kind of baseline, a bedrock of fundamental happiness. That's something that so many people, especially as they reach stratospheric success, don't really have as part of their identity anymore. Right. The new identity, the baseline is very high, and that can be okay too, because what I say is, like, when you get to a certain level of success and age, your friends are also successful. So if you happen to be falling out of the airplane, somebody has a parachute and say, "Hey, I got one. Here you go." Like, you're not going to fall to the earth. Right. You may fall a little, but you'll be back. Yeah. So in a recent interview, you also mentioned that you align with the philosopher Saigo Takamori.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of happiness and kind of fulfillment and success, I believe you said success is being able to live in alignment with your own values and your sense of freedom.
Yep.
When in your life did you feel that you were successful?
Okay. It's always very personal interactions with people. Successful fundraising, making a valuation higher, revenues, profit. These things don't make me feel successful.
Sure. Yeah. I can imagine that. They come with more responsibility and more commitment.
Right. It's just numbers. And I'm more interested always in the human story. So, for example, there are some families that I'm personally supporting. One family is in a village in the region called Ladakh. Ladakh is it's in the Himalayan mountains, and it's a very small village in India. And they it's Tibetan Buddhism region of India. And there are some kids, and luckily my friend came to me saying that, do you want to pay for the tuition of these kids? And then I said, why not? Because I visited the area, and I visit there almost every year, and I fell in love with there. And then I started interacting with them, and it's not just the money relationship. It's more like a very personal relationship, and thanks to that experience, I can touch their life, and I can feel or I can see the ups and downs in their life. All these experiences are quite important to me. And another thing, maybe I came across, it's in Japan, I came across the quite bad, the local government's children's, the welfare department. And I talked with the kids there, and then I felt very strongly about the necessity for the change. And we managed to have an inspection opportunity for this place. And after issuing the inspection reports, actually the situation changed dramatically. And I was very happy because when I talked with these kids who are feeling powerless, I was determined to fix this. And then I was able to do that. Yes, now we have more than 2 million household customers. That means household population is more than 10 million people. But I cannot see all of them, right?
That's right.
So always the happiness or the sense of being successful comes from very personal interaction with the people. So
witnessing the actual wheels on the ground and the actual change. It's that's what life's all about, you got to be with people, right? Yeah, of course. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You had spoken about education earlier and how there's a necessity to kind of overhaul the whole system.
Right.
I totally agree. And I'm also with you in the boat that it's going to be a long kind of thought process and change process rather than any sort of massive disruption. Certainly more support and funding needs to go into it. There needs to be a refocus on the shift of importance of education as well, so that we get back to the societies that respect learning and teachers and just the sort of exchange of information around the classroom settings, right? You are somebody who is consistently writing and expressing yourself, and also kind of chronicling the processes that you experience in your life and professional life. I noticed that you wrote in 2009, at the age of 15, your intro to finance theories.
Right.
What was happening in your life that allowed you to make those observations?
I think back then I was into finance theory. It's theoretically very beautiful. I like it. I like mathematics in general, so I thought it's a beautiful model. And at the same time, I was very keen on kids' education, etc. So I thought maybe some essence of finance theory can be learned for teenagers, and then that's why I started the writing this book. It was my first book. I wrote already 9 books so far, and my 10th book will come maybe next March. And then it was so for example, essence of finance theory.
Give us some of the fundamentals, and are they applicable today? Now that
So it's like why risk diversification is important, why diversification is important, for example, and also why the value today and the value in the future is different. So if you get $100 today and $100 and 1 year later, how different are they and why? And then down here, they give us very interesting questions about how we see life. For example, some people might say that, okay, the risky uncertainty, we like them, but actually it turned out that most of us actually are risk averse in general. It's just how much risk tolerant is different,
right?
But we don't like risk. That's the human nature, and also how much difference do we see between the $100 now and the $100 next year? Also reflects our way of seeing life, or how desperate we are, and all these things should be considered. If you don't have money at all, $100 now means much more than the $100 a year later.
Yes.
But if you're wealthy and you have enough money, it doesn't make have much difference, right?
Yeah.
So actually, this foundation and this is this discussion is around this discount ratio. That becomes more cryptic word, but all these finance theories are actually based on human psychology.
Sure.
And that's what I found very interesting.
Okay. Wow. So how can that apply to today's teenagers?
I think the one thing that I always talk to these kids is maybe you should take the risk sometimes, but it should be very calculated. And they always whenever I take a risk, I always think about where is the line where I should escape or walk away.
Yeah.
So to this extent, I will take risk, but if once I get to this point, okay, I lose this time, and I'm going to back out.
In a very unemotional way.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a very important aspect in terms of your perspective or the human perspective, as you mentioned, with for example, investing in stock market, being able to know when to cut your losses so that you still have something to move to the future with.
Yeah.
But also another, I think, major challenge in mindset that you mentioned very aptly is how people perceive an asset that's falling in value and price, right? The ones who are just rock solid animals, they say, oh, I see it going on sale. This is a great opportunity to pick this up at a cheaper price, right? But that's not our natural kind of disposition, right? We're mostly like, oh shit, I'm losing my money, right. My house, everything, right? Yeah. But the gambler's mentality, but it could double, it could triple, it could keep on going. I'll give you a choice here. Music is such an amazing kind of mystical element of our life, and you are an avid drummer, right? So I'd love for you to either talk about your music, or we could talk about just kind of self-care practice routines, and like kind of being physically and mentally and spiritually vibrant. Which one do you want to talk about first?
All right. I'm an amateur drummer, but happy to talk about music because that's talking about music in front of you. Yeah, very interesting experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah. So I mean, how did it start for you?
So I was doing this soccer right until 18, and then once I became a college student, I thought maybe I want to play instruments rather than they keep doing sports. And then I didn't know where I should start. And when I was a high school student, I used to play guitar, but I thought maybe drums would be interesting because I was an athlete, and it's not a good idea, but as an athlete, if you look at drums, pianos, and all the other instruments, which one do you think you'll be able to play better than the others?
Yeah.
Maybe drums.
Yeah.
Because
physical.
It's more physical. And that's how I started. I belong to the music band of the college, and I became I don't know how to put it though, but the manager or the leader of the student band. And then I started composing some music, and then that's how I learned the basics of the music composition theories and so forth. That was quite interesting.
Yeah,
because
is this post YouTube?
No,
it's before YouTube.
No, much before you.
Yeah.
The YouTube.
So what was your process in terms of learning how to compose a song?
Oh yeah, I read books.
Yeah.
Right. The chord, for example. Before then, I didn't know why some music sounds like this.
Yeah.
For example, the way you finish any music, in many cases, especially in Western music, it should be. I don't know how to put it in English, but if the bass chord is a C, and if it's a major, then it should be with Z to C or F to C, right?
A very strong conclusion.
Right.
Resolution.
These things I didn't know, but I thought this the music is totally consistent thing of this intuitions and only these things, but there was a very solid or robust theory inside or behind that made me fascinated. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Another is the sense of groove. When I started, actually, I didn't know anything about groove, but I think to me as a drummer, my hero is Steve Jordan.
Oh yeah, sure.
I really love his drumming.
Yeah.
To me, generating some sort of groove by playing drums is like the how to say, the experience like for the first time you managed to ride on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Once you get it, you understand. You can feel it.
Yeah.
But with words, it's not enough at all to explain how groove really is like. And that's an amazing experience. And I think thanks to that great experience, I still play drums. And then I still love listening to music. I go to rock festivals. Fuji Rock is my favorite. I go to Fuji Rock 10 consecutive times.
Oh wow! Maybe. Okay, we gotta go next time.
Right.
All right. Now I know who to call.
And I also love going to Blue Note.
Yes.
Etc.
Okay. Fantastic. Wow. Do you find any relationship between the idea of groove and timing with martial arts?
Oh, that's a good question, and the answer is I think yes.
Yeah.
Because I used to do kickboxing and karate for 20 years now. 4 years ago, I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes. And
there's a flow actually in sparring and in real, the competition. There are phases there where I should play softly or the become the more defensive,
Mm.
and then there are the phases where I should really the work hard
Yeah.
to dominate the game.
Right.
Either understanding the flow or the balance, the sense of balance is something that I think I learned from playing instruments.
Mm.
And also, if you're a drummer, drummer's job is okay. When I was doing soccer, I was a goalkeeper.
Oh,
And
nice.
then I became drummer.
Yeah.
And the CEO.
Yeah.
To me, they're all quite similar things. So
Yeah.
you're always behind.
Catching
And you-
problems coming right at your face at
That's correct.
fast speed.
Right. So you have to watch out, how everyone's doing.
Yeah.
And if you make single mistake, it's so noticeable.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
In that sense, it's very similar.
Tightrope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of people ask me why I like the cello and the trombone. It's the same thing. It's because there's a tightrope when you play,
Right.
proverbial tightrope
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
performing or practicing. And I feel like the cello and the trombone have a very high margin for error. And no matter who you are, like with the cello, whether you're,
Right.
Mislav Rostropovich or Yo-Yo Ma or Jacqueline Dupre or
Yeah.
myself, anybody, like we all make mistakes,
Mm.
like very public mistakes,
Right.
because it's just such a difficult instrument. It's big,
Yeah.
and the intervals are spaced out, and the follicles of hair also don't always fall in the same direction. So the possibility of making a mistake with the cello is like
Right.
very high.
Mm.
And so I like that because there's a lot of other puzzles you can give me and I can figure it out,
Mm.
right? But this is one like it will take me my whole life and I still will not figure it out. And yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Really awesome. Speaking of major speaking of high stakes, right?
Right.
What do you do to manage stress?
I basically do exercise.
Exercise. Yeah.
Running.
Yeah.
Okay. If I don't have time, I do sprint.
Mhm.
800 meters sprint.
Mm.
10 times.
Mm.
That's good enough. Actually, it's very exhausting.
Yeah. Totally. One is
Yes, yes. And if I have time, like several hours, I go to a mountain nearby and I run in the mountain, inside the mountain. There's from my home, if I take the train 1 hour, I can go to Mount Takao, and there's a beautiful trail running course. It's like 30 kilometers trail running, and it's if I run inside the mountains, I think most of the cases I'm all right. I can manage any stress.
Yeah, well, that's really amazing. Yeah, it was covered in the intro, but yeah, you have so many different dynamics, and that ultra marathon and kind of endurance athleticism is certainly one of them. You also talked about in a couple different settings about the importance in your life in terms of like reducing waste and kind of being conscious about what you're eating, looking at sustainability on a lifestyle kind of perspective in terms of like what fashion you're wearing and like how long the clothes will last. We spoke a little bit about religion and how different things that you believe in but don't know how they work could be construed as a religion. What about the side of like mental acuity, like mental stress or spirituality in your life? Does that play a part in your kind of balance of life? Do you find that so much of what you do also ties into helping people to reduce their mental stress?
That's correct.
And do you have practices in your own life that are tied to mental wellness and or spirituality, which oftentimes both are related to your overall kind of holistic wellness?
I think that's something that I have to pursue further because inside my company, with my colleagues, I talk about this spiritual. It's not spirituality, but mental well-being, meditation. Yeah, I think last year I had a meditation session with my the colleagues where I did some class for meditation with my colleagues. That's in that way I think that is helping my personal experience is helping the others within my organization. But when it comes to my customers, one thing actually is this language barrier. I don't speak local language, so quite often my interaction with them is with interpreters. Therefore, I have not been able to do that. But definitely, people in a difficult situation financially are facing much more stress than the people who are not.
Yeah.
So we should think about how to do that.
One of the things I like to ask very effective, productive, and successful people is how they spend their time. I've looked throughout history, because throughout history you can research like how did Johann Sebastian Bach spend his time, or Leonardo da Vinci, or Barack Obama, right, or Pomodoro, right, the most famous, right. I think in Chinese they call it tomato time, right? Which just basically means you take a break every hour with a timer. And what I'm curious about is what do you spend the most time?
Work, but I think I tend to spend like 4 or 5 hours every day with my daughter.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's a big commitment, and that's a big change that I had in my life in the last few years.
Yeah.
To me, time management is about how you feeling pebbles, sands, and water in a glass. It's a very common thing, right?
Yeah.
And I always tend to I always start with blocking my calendar. And for example, in the early morning and evening time, I block my calendar. And unless I have very urgent meetings, I spend my time with my family members. That's one priority. And then work. Actually, before having a kid, my time was entirely spent on my work. Wow. And then on top of that, from time to time, I block my calendar for my, the exercise, etc. Yeah. But this exercise is in a sense like body maintenance. Yeah. It's very important for me as an entrepreneur to be always fit. With my family, it's not something that is directly meaningful, perhaps for my job as an entrepreneur. But it's it's just about the priority. Quite often I think about it, which is at the end of our lives, I would not likely to be surrounded by my former colleagues. I will be surrounded by my family members and friends.
That's right.
Right? Unless you die now. If you die at the age of 80, I'm here. Yeah, people tend to die after the retirement, and quite often you're surrounded by your family members and friends. And if I think about my life priority from the end, then the priority should be very clear. I work hard. I work hard to build my company, and I should keep working hard for the next decade. Yeah, but I not change my priority in my life.
So your wife is also a young global leader with World Economic Forum.
That's correct.
You guys are the same year?
No, my wife is 1 year senior.
Okay. So pretty close in years. Both have a creative side to you. Do you feel you share that kind of impressive drive and devotion to your work? And does that help you guys align on like the direction of your lives?
My wife and I are so different. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, in that sense, because my wife is definitely a creative person, and she's pretty good at out of the box thinking.
Absolutely.
And quite often she comes up with very somewhat weird ideas. Yeah. Quite often.
Very imaginative.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And she's willing to go out, like you said, you be in a place of imagination and fantasy. Like, you were saying you may not want to give up your name, and she's going on a moniker like Sputniko, right?
That's right. So I'm very normal human being. That's what I see, and then I'm good at continuing, the things and setting up routines, etc.,
Yeah.
which my life is not good at. So
Mm,
it's a
it's
very very interesting combination.
Yeah. I guess what I was asking is like you guys probably both work a lot, right?
Oh,
to,
yes.
To achieve the level of success and kind of notoriety in your fields and just to continue like kind of opening new realms
Right.
in your world of focus. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things besides time management, one of the things I look at in a lot of successful people is also decision-making processes. And I noticed that in your CV, you talked about how when you were with the investment platform Unison Capital,
Oh yeah.
You guys were leading one of the, you worked with the Mr. Akindo Sushiro,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
And it became the exit of the year when you were working in private equity in Asia. During that time, you created what was called the 10-second model, which automatically generates full financial projections for all listed and major non-listed companies. And then the model was banned for new joiners as it was too convenient.
Oh yeah.
So meaning like you were able to kind of identify the pros and cons of an investment opportunity very quickly within, proverbially 10 seconds.
Right.
That's a highly efficient decision-making process. Talk a little bit about that, and then how does that apply to, your life on the whole? You're saying as you're kind of looking at the bigger picture, where you're going, are you able to apply any of those kind of principles
Right. I see.
moving forward?
There's an interesting change to me. Okay, so when I was working as an investment professional, I was quite even today I think I'm good at numbers and this financial modeling. But back then I was quite good at making many decisions quite quickly. But after starting a company, I realized in the early days I was good at it, but now I realized that I'm much better at making an important decision, sort of type A decision, in the Jeff Bezos way. So there are type A decision which is very important, irreversible decision, and a type B decision which is less important and that you can fix even if you make a mistake. And then I realized that I'm good at making type A decisions. So because I can keep thinking about one subject for 3 months, 6 months, or even a year without being bored. I realized that it's a very unique trait compared with the other fellow entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs tend to get bored very quickly. So now I focus much more on very fundamental decision items, and then I delegated most of the other decisions to the other team members. So for example, I'm running this company with the other fellow YGR, Arno. Right? Yes. So we are two representatives of the company, and Arnold is very good at making all the decision instantly.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I tend to think a lot, so I'm focusing more on very major ones, structural ones, and then I spend time to think about the right idea. And then Arno drives the company pretty well. By making, I think every day he makes like 10-20 decisions. Meanwhile, I make a very small number of decisions
with full French confidence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very different leadership style.
Absolutely.
And then, therefore, I think we are working quite well together. So we both are an entrepreneur, and it's very rare, to have two entrepreneurs in an organization, right?
Yeah, with similar kind of experience too, right? I mean, micro-lending, and finance, and
But we don't see any issue. We've been working together for already 4 years.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
And then we don't see any issue now.
So you guys connected through the World Economic Forum and
that's correct.
In your first year. Interesting. Wow, that's like you said, a very invaluable network of highly skilled professionals connecting and making each other's lives better. Hopefully, the world too.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're coming up on the end of our time,
Mm.
but I had one, kind of selfish question that I feel like a lot of people will want to know.
Mm.
In your kind of self-optimization journey,
Mm.
this is probably a more easy question.
Mm.
You mentioned that you went from being frugal with your
Of course, yeah.
clothes,
Yeah.
your fashion budget,
Right.
to being more kind of intentional about buying higher quality items.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say and I can say this because I've lived in China for 8 years, that things in China, like it's cheap, it's made in China.
Mm.
However, I can also say something that I learned while I was in China, that everything you love and you think is awesome is also made in China. The phone in your pocket, the mic on your shirt, the camera you're shooting with, the computer you use every day, right? So out of all of the higher end kind of fashion accessories or just a wardrobe,
Right.
which ones do you feel are worth, in terms of brands or creations, which ones are worth the money?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Ah,
Because a lot of them are made in the same place, right? They may be
Right.
like a factory making luxury goods and cheap stuff, right?
Right.
In the same region. So
Right.
so I'm very curious, because I also have seen that, if you buy a really nice pair of pants or a suit or something, it does seem like it is better made, right?
Right,
So maybe
right.
somebody's paying more attention.
right.
But specifically, are you brand agnostic, or do you find that there's certain brands that you feel are worth the value of the investment
Right.
and last long for you?
Okay. Yeah, the thing is, I started thinking about sustainability very carefully or seriously. And then, so the first thing that I started is to buy clothes made by national brands.
National brands.
Because, okay, if you buy something which was produced in Europe,
Mhm.
given the transportation cost and etc., and it costs a lot on ours. So, or Japanese brand. Okay, this one is CFCL, which my friend started. He used to be a director of Issey Miyake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, looks very.
Yeah, and this company acquired B Corp certification.
Okay.
My company too. They acquired B Corp certification. So
Meaning there's a social good aspect.
That's
of
correct,
the,
right.
The company's
And
mission.
then this pants and jacket is a Issey Miyake.
Yes.
Issey Miyake, I think, is perhaps the first clothing designer who thought about sustainability even before the word existed.
Right.
I think he kept talking about the purpose of clothing, and he said that all these clothes should be for the society, should be for the betterment of the society, and we should not waste things. And so my friend was at Issey Miyake, and he learned a lot about this philosophy, and then he started this company.
That's great.
And then this shoes is Onitsuka Tiger.
Oh yeah.
So Japanese brand, and that's that insight came when I spent my time in a tiny village, less than 1,000 people in Ladakh. So the altitude of this village is 4,000 meters.
Wow.
It's surrounded by all the mountains.
Yeah.
And during the winter time, you cannot go anywhere, right?
Yes.
You're surrounded by mountains. And then the resource is very small plot of land and the water, which is the melted glaciers. So, and then that's it. And then they have survived in that region for more than 1,000 years. And then their lifestyle was completely sustainable. And then after seeing this lifestyle and spending time there, coming back to Japan, I realized that, it doesn't work in the long run. Right? Just recently, there was a Netflix series called Buy Now.
Okay.
And then Buy Now is about how the mass consumption society is going wrong. So I thought
like
maybe
fast fashion,
etc. So I thought maybe I really should buy something that I can the feel good, and then I can wear for longer period.
Sure.
And another thing that I started is I have this is my sort of uniform.
Yeah.
And wherever I go, I wear this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When I was in Singapore, I think I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Because this way I can reduce the number of items that I should buy.
And decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Decision
Save a lot
also.
of time.
Yeah. So So if you open my wardrobe,
Yeah.
the same clothes.
Yeah,
I don't
me too.
need to think.
Yeah.
I don't need to think. I just wear them.
Yeah.
That's it. And then this way, all clothes get worn out at certain pace, right?
Yeah.
So then even if I need to buy something additionally, again, it's very simple.
Yeah. Exactly. For those of you wondering, I do have many black hats like this.
Oh, yeah.
This is a pile, and when this one wears out, we get another one and keep going.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Taejun. It's really awesome that you have spent time of your, from your valuable schedule and your busy life. Like I said, you are such a dynamic person, and to have someone in the world who is focused on altruism to improve the world, but also has a very firm grasp to be able to communicate it is something very rare and special. And I think we need more people in the world like you. So I'm glad that you're willing to share kind of your tricks of the trade, your life story, your trials and tribulations with us on Upgrade Me today. So thank you, brother. I look forward to many more conversations.
Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. That's a wrap with Taejun Shin. What a legendary character, right? The world is filled with mind-blowing stories if you're just willing to take a look. Big thanks and shout out to Taejun for dropping knowledge on microfinance, child welfare, and living life generally like a ninja drummer. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to go out and conquer the world. Or at least my to-do list, let's be real. From stateless roots to global mogul status, he's proof that you can rise up under any circumstances. If you enjoyed this episode and made it to the very end of the video, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and share this with your smart friends. Consider joining us on Patreon. It makes all the difference in supporting future episodes. Follow the story. It's only getting better. Stay safe, stay strong.